Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show, where we celebrate the innovators driving change in the education industry. At Edison OS, we've worked with over 500 knowledge entrepreneurs to turn their edtech ideas into profitable businesses. Hi, Janice. Good morning. Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneur Show. Thank you so much for taking your time out for this.
Good morning, Jag. I am honored to be here today.
It's my pleasure having you, Janice. Janice, I was just going through your generally collecting information about you right before a podcast because that's what I'm supposed to do, so that I have an idea. Of course, we do go through your profile when we send out a request to you, but you've had two different careers. One in the education since the last decade or a little more than a decade maybe, and
Yes.
you've been doing other stuff before, like corporate stuff. And so I'd like to start off like this. Uh, what was your transition like from the corporate world into starting something like the College Navigator?
Well, I will tell you, I am a single parent of three beautiful children. And as I was raising my children, I found out about um, scholarships for high school students to be able to attend independent high schools. So, private high schools based off of if, as long as the child was pretty much low income and high achieving. And this, I stumbled upon this with my daughter. And then once I found that information out from a high school level, I was like, okay, well, what other information is out here for college? So I immediately started to think about college. So I started just gathering information and then sharing that information with friends and family members because they didn't know about it either. And then I said, I think maybe I found a niche here, something that can be turned into a business so that I can educate other parents and other children as well who look like me. And so I will tell you, I think at the very beginning, it was really just about sharing of information. But it was not enough for me to quit my day job. so I wind up just being a kind of a part-time entrepreneur, I would say, as a full-time mother and a full-time senior IT project manager.
Right. So you were in the IT domain not until long ago. Like only it's been your current profession of counseling full time is a very recent thing. But there was a
Yes.
time, there was at least a decade for which you kind of handled both the things, that is being a project manager or in the IT domain, as well as building the College Navigator. So how did you go about doing that? Did you just keep it very simple, and did you just give it enough priority when you had time, or did you carve out a fixed time every week and you worked on it?
So, hmm, yes. So everybody knows that, as I mentioned, I want to make sure you guys understand I was a single mother, three children, working a full time job in the financial industry as a senior IT project manager. And now I start getting clients. But my children were also my clients. So I kept the client list to five students. And
Right.
I felt that five students was um, a good number that I could manage, and still be able to meet the demands of going to my children's sporting events, theater events. But I just love helping children, and my main goal was to work with low income, high achieving students who wanted to get to college, but for the least amount of money so that they could graduate close to debt free as possible. And so that probably was my main claim to fame on there. And so as a project manager, like any other good project manager, you're going to have a schedule, and you're going to look at that schedule, and you're going to work that schedule so that when you could find wiggle room in there, I would meet with the clients, via Zoom. And actually, I was meeting with clients on Skype way before the, pandemic hit. So, and I always had clients across the United States that I worked with, because we made it easier, as well as being able to meet with them on FaceTime.
Got it, Janice. Janice, you mentioned specifically that you worked with low income but high achievers, right? So, what was your first paying client like? How long did it take? How did you kind of get there?
So my very first paying client was actually one of my coworkers. We went out to lunch. She told me that she had three daughters. She was married. Um, so but she wanted to know how could she manage paying for her daughter to get to college. And she wanted to be on a good track of helping her because her daughter did attend public school. And everybody knows that the public schools are overcrowded. We also know that most public schools only have anywhere from 2 to 4 college counselors, and they have a caseload usually anywhere between 250 to 500 students. And that's just a lot of students. And I could give my clients the individual attention that they needed to get to where they wanted to go. And one of the things that I found out about that I really love are pre-college summer programs on college campuses. I also attended a pre-college summer program on a college campus the summer before my senior year. But what I did for my children and my first client was to ensure that they got on college campuses the summer after ninth grade, the summer after 10th grade, and also the summer after their 11th grade. This way, if a student says, I want to study engineering, and you put them on a campus where, or in a summer program where they are studying engineering or math or science, they can then walk away from that program either being validated and saying, yes, this is exactly what I want to study. Or they can say, no, I need to find another major because I did not like what we were doing in that summer program. So that is what I feel like a lot of kids are missing out on, is just knowing what's available to them, having access and accessibility, affordability. And if they can just step on a college campus, live like a college student, eating the meals in the cafeteria, being alone and growing up. I think kids tend to mature quicker if they are on that college campus without mom and dad, and utilizing what mom and dad taught them, while they're still growing. It gives them that sense of confidence as well, that I can be a college student. I'm ready for college. It also helps them to learn something to reduce this summer melt. So when they do get back to school that next year, they can be either a step ahead of their kids, their other students, or they can be somebody who can take an advanced class because they had this additional knowledge over the summer. So that's really how it happened with my very first client. It was my colleague who wanted to know more about how to help her daughter to get into the college of her choice, but also to make certain that her daughter had confidence, because her daughter was kind of an introvert. And I think also being able to go to a college and be around like-minded students gave her the confidence that she needed to share. And most of these pre-college summer programs are smaller than students being in their regular classrooms.
Got it, Janice. Janice, correct me if I'm wrong. You said that, the difference between the way you did it when, you were about to get into a course or a program was that you just got one opportunity to experience, whereas when you did this for others, you made them do it a couple of years earlier so that they got three chances to figure out what they want to do. Am I correct there?
That is correct. Yeah, it took me one chance, and I was lucky because it was at the University of Maryland College Park. It also was a place that I thought I was going to go and matriculate, but I did find my college niche because I was studying Fortran. So for those of you, I am dating myself. The first programming language, Fortran, and I also took a class in probability and statistics because I really love math. And when I did attend Wilberforce University and the University of Dayton in a dual degree program, I studied mathematics and computer science. But yes, I believe that children need additional opportunities because it's one or two things that students are going to do over the summer. Maybe one or three things. There are some students that are just going to volunteer all summer. They love to volunteer. They love to give back. They are gaining skills and they're doing it for free, which is really admirable of those students. Other students are going to work because some students just have to work. But when you do work, you're also gaining valuable skills, particularly customer service skills. You are customer facing. You know, those skills also help to boost a student's confidence. But then for those students who can and who are willing to go away from home, either in state but still away from home because they're staying the night on those college campuses, or they're actually going out of state. All of those things allows a student to um, again increase their confidence. It allows the students to mature. It allows the students to be accountable for that, what they're studying on that campus, and ensuring that they are learning, abiding by the rules. They are communicating back and forth with their parents at home. These are the things they're doing their own laundry, cleaning their room, all the chores that they would have if they were at home. They're living with roommates. And so they're not going to college saying, oh my God, I never had a roommate before. Oh, oh, I'm an only child and I've only ever shared my room by myself and nobody else, unless I just had somebody to sleep over. These kids are learning what it's like to be a college student, and they can take those skill sets with them to college, and what they're not afraid. They're not going to get homesick. They're ready to dive in and learn because they are confident that they can do the work of a college student.
Got it, Janice. Janice, when you began, researching and gathering information for your kids, and when you thought you could also help others around you, how long did it take for you to get to a stage where you could call yourself an expert in this domain, where you could confidently handle any queries that was thrown at you?
You know what? I don't know exactly what the time frame was, Jag, but I would definitely say I was definitely an expert on pre-college summer programs. I did a lot of research, and let me mention also, Jag, that I have lived in 11 different states. I
Wow.
have visited 44 of the United States. So I have a network of friends and family members across the United States. And I help students everywhere. So, and even in the Caribbean, to I've helped students from St. Croix and the Bahamas and Jamaica to also come to the United States to study. So I would say I probably I'm still learning, but as far as this pre-college summer programs, I would say that I was an expert after about 3 years because of my children going and studying. I had one of my children was studying engineering, another one is studying politics, social justice, and social policy, and the other one is studying data analytics. So having kids that's coming to me and having different majors, that's going to make you try to get out there and understand, okay, what programs are out here for this major? What programs are for this major? And I just kept a list of all of these programs so that when I would get a new client, one of the first things I would ask them, what are you interested in? What are you good at doing? It's hard for a 16,
Yeah.
17, 18-year-old to know exactly what they want to study. But sometimes you can look at their transcripts and say, oh, I see that you're now taking pre-calculus and you're only in the 10th grade. So that means that student really loves math, right? And so you want to look at maybe what are some of the math pre-college summer programs that's out there, or engineering or science or robotics. That gives you an idea of what that student would be good at and what they may want to study when they get to college. Again, some of the students really just don't know until they are exposed. And then once they are exposed to those programs, they can come back and say, I got an idea of what it is that I want to study. Now I'm just saying they may change their major later once they get to college, but at least they know what the major is that they may want to pursue, and that's what they're going to apply for on their college applications.
Got it, Janice. Janice, it said, when I was reading about your LinkedIn write up, it said you assist students who are in the 8th to the 12th grade in getting to at least a 2-year college program or a 4-year college program. So, what's the difference between the two, and does it depend upon the age of the students?
Well, what I believe about a 2 year community college is that every student is not ready to dive into a 4 year program. So there are some students, and I know I mentioned that I normally work with high achieving students, but there are some students who are family members, close family friends, and they really needed my assistance to help. And I am just an honest person, and I'm going to be honest with them. Particularly, it's two reasons to me why a student should go to a community college. One is if the family just does not have the funds. There are several programs that's out here for students of color to attend college, but 9 times out of 10, parents are still paying. They're paying something out of pocket, even if, because it's very hard to get a full cost of attendance scholarship. It's very competitive. 9 times out of 10, kids can get full tuition scholarships, and but they're still going to have the room and board that they need to pay. So if a child is not that mature, they may be better off going to a 2 year college where they can get A's and B's, boost their GPA at the community college, and then transfer to the 4 year college or university. And that could be in state or out of state. There are now several programs that the 4 year colleges have with the 2 year colleges, and some of them they call them bridge programs. So you applied to the 4-year college, you weren't able to get in. So now the best thing for you to do is to get into this bridge program that they mentioned to you. And they'll say, hey, if you attend community college and you can maintain a 3.0, maybe even higher GPA, you can then be automatically accepted into the 4-year school based on how well you do at the 2-year school. So, and then the other reason, because I just mentioned, was finances to attend a 2-year, but also if a student does not have high GPA. And that is another thing. Again, we talked about that maturity level. Some students, they really just don't realize that from the very beginning of their high school career, from ninth grade, they have to set a sturdy foundation. And that sturdy foundation is built on A's and B's. So I'll tell you a funny story, Jag. When I always address the ninth grade students, I always talk to them about the Three Little Pigs story. Are you familiar with the story of Three Little Pigs?
No, I'm afraid
Okay.
not.
Okay. Well, it's a nursery rhyme story. And there were three little pigs, and the mother sent them out to make their own way in the world. She gave all three of them the same amount of money, and they all set off to build themselves a house. The first house built, the first pig built his house of straw. But the wolf came along because, there's always an antagonist in a story. And
Right.
this wolf comes along because he wants to eat the little pig, and he huffs and he puffs and he blows that house down. And that pig runs to the second pig's house. The second pig built his house out of sticks. And the wolf comes along and he huffs and he puffs and he blows that house down. Now the two little pigs take off running to the third pig's house, right? Their third brother. And that pig built his house out of bricks. But when the wolf came along and he huffed and he puffed, he was unable to blow the house down. So that is the foundation that I ask students to build their high school career upon. I ask them, which pig do you want to be? Now, most people say that the third pig was smart, right?
Right.
Because he used bricks. The bricks equates to A's. The sticks equate to B's, and straws equate to C's. And in my household, my children were not able to get C's. They had to be the best student they knew how to be, and that was to get A's and B's to build their high school career upon.
Right. You said when you spoke to most kids or most people, they wanted to be the third pig, obviously, build it with bricks. But they also kind of told that that's because that pig was smart, right? So, what did you have to, say to those students? Because you don't have to sometimes be only smart. There are other ways. There are people that figure out and, somehow figure out that they need to build it with bricks.
So I think the other option is, right? Do you play an instrument? Are you artistic? Okay, parents, I am listening. I am out here. Every kid does not have to be smart, not at all. But every kid does need to try. And they need to try their hand at sports, at theater, at visual arts. Can they make something? Can they sing? Can they play an instrument? Whatever it is that that child is good at, then that's where that child should excel. And they should take classes around those items where they will be able to excel and they will get the A's or B's that they need. But whenever a child is lacking in a particular area, as we know, on the high school level, kids have to study 4 years of math, 4 years of English, 4 years of history, 4 years of science, 2 to 3 years of a foreign language, depending on what the student may want to study in college and depending on the type of college they want to attend. All of these things come together, parents, and the sooner you know these things, then the better it will be for your student to transition into the college of their choice. Several colleges have artistic scholarships. So for theater, for, arts, so it's performing arts, it's visual arts, and there's, and what we call overall just talent. Um, and then there's sports. So there are several ways that a student can get to college and get to the college of their choice, but you still need to get the work done. And if you can't, if you're struggling, that is when you ask for help. That is when you get a tutor if necessary. But you don't just fail a class because you're not interested. And that is something that parents have to pay close attention to, because the student may not like a particular class, but over here, when they go to their jazz class, they're excelling. When they go to their dance class, they're excelling. Then those are the type of summer programs that we want to look for our students.
Got it, Janice. Janice, a while ago you were talking about, you're still learning as far as the admission counseling goes, but then when it comes to pre-college summer programs, you're an expert. So, what does a college admission counselor, the role of a college admission counselor encompass apart from, pre-college summer program? What are the other things that there are that you say that you are probably learning still?
Okay, so I am currently now. So I left my corporate job just a little over a year ago to become the director of college counseling and alumni advising at Crystal Ray Richmond High School. And I just want to let you know, Jag, I am loving it. It is very fulfilling for me. And I don't think I would ever go back. And I can still use my project management skill set on this job.
Right.
What I am still learning is that there are so many colleges that's out here. And there is a college for every student, but it's finding that college for that student. It's also making certain that our students are able to attend college for the least amount of money possible. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Crystal Ray network of schools, we now have 39 schools across 24 states. The mission for us is to ensure that African American and Latino students attend college for less than $5,000 a year. We believe if they can go for less than $5,000, it will not be a burden on the family or even on the student if the student has to take out student loans. This way, they get to break that generational gap of being able to build wealth in their families. We know that if they can graduate from college within 4 to 6 years with the least amount of debt possible, but being able to get a full-time job paying better wages than what they would be if they only had a high school diploma. So I would say I'm constantly learning about, how to help students write their personal statement, learning which colleges have top scholarships for students who may have a 3.7 GPA or higher. Learning about scholarships that are available for students with a 2.0 through a 3.0. Because again, every kid is not going to be the valedictorian. They can't. But what we can recognize in the student is what other skill sets does that student have, and how do we utilize their skill set, their knowledge base, in order for them to match to the best college of their choice. And I think that's probably what I'm really learning more than anything. And also the FAFSA keeps changing. So now we're having the better FAFSA. And the goal of it is that I'm hoping is that the colleges, the universities, the government, the college board, whether colleges decide to be test optional or not, to just do away with tests that are culturally biased. But all of those things, we just hope that they are working towards accessibility, affordability for all.
Got it, Janice. Janice, you were a IT project manager. Of course, in the side you did the College Navigator, but then getting a full-time job in the area that you're passionate about, especially after being an IT project manager for that long, is a whole other thing. How did that happen? How easy or difficult was it?
Honestly, it was fairly easy, you guys. So our current principal, Principal Lynn Wylick, she found me on LinkedIn. So I would tell you that my children said to me, they came and they said, Mom, we want to ask you a question. And they said, which job do you feel you work the most hours for? And of course, I chuckled and I said, I would like to think that it is my full time job. And my kid said, No, Mom, you work tirelessly for your students, for your clients, helping them to find the best college fit. And I will also tell you that my children helped me to build my business by applying to over 50 colleges and getting in, and so that I could find out, well, if this student with a 3.3 GPA who is a theater major, who wants to study social justice and social policy and politics, applied to these 50 schools, gets in, what kind of merit scholarships are they receiving, and what is the final cost of attendance. That really helped me out. And then my oldest daughter, she had a 4.87 GPA on a 4.0 scale because she took advantage of the AP classes. She wanted to study systems and industrial engineering. And she wound up getting a full ride to North Carolina State University. My previous daughter that I mentioned applying to over 50 schools, she was selected as a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Fellow, and she is currently a senior at Brandeis University. So then my youngest son, who attends Elon University, he was selected as an Odyssey Scholar and a Leadership Fellow, an Isabella Cannon Leadership Fellow. So there are, different opportunities for different kids, right? For what kids want to study. And I will just tell you guys, all of my years of experience working with my clients, working with the FAFSA and doing the FAFSA, right? Like I'm a parent, I'm doing the same thing that I'm asking my other clients to do and assisting them. So I think we all learn by doing. And the more we do it, the more we become better at it. And I think coupled with my project management experience as well. So I went from having 5 students to having over 50 students in my first year. So I think the job was an easy transition for me, but there is still a lot of things that I did not know in my first year that I realized afterwards. I also moved. So I was living in North Carolina. I moved from North Carolina to Richmond, Virginia. So now I needed to understand the different types of colleges in Virginia, both public and private colleges. I needed to understand like what are the scholarships that are available for these students. And so I think I knew a lot, but I also learned a lot coming in the door. And I brought things with me, like, for example, the Posse Scholarship. So the my principal here didn't know anything about Posse. Um, and so I was able to bring Posse, and we had one student to get selected for the Posse Scholarship to attend William and Mary. And that was a full tuition scholarship, but we also had a donor who had graduated from William and Mary that was paying the money to the student for their room and board. So that was a really great win for us in bringing in Posse. So yeah, I think the transition has really been wonderful. I am very passionate about helping my students. And I will also tell you that my kids say that I really love visiting different college campuses and getting to know the culture of the campus, right? The lay of the land of every campus, because every campus has its own unique vibe.
Right.
And I do. I enjoy it. And I have probably visited, I would say, over 100 college campuses.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna, touch upon. You said you've lived in 11 states and you've traveled 44 states, and you said that kind of helped you with what you did. Now, how did that happen? Did you do that for this, or that just happened and you know, was it just a coincidence?
Definitely not a coincidence. I love to travel. I believe that as much as I've never been abroad, so I will tell you that I will be finally going abroad next year, as because my son will be studying abroad in Florence, Italy, and I've
Wow.
always wanted to
Okay.
go to Tuscany and Sicily and just and Venice and Naples and Rome. So I'm finally going to get a chance to go overseas. But I believe because we have 50 states, every state is different. And let me not forget Puerto Rico. Um, the fact that we have all of these different states and every state is different. The culture is different. The food is different. The vibe is different. I literally love visiting our states and getting to know them and what they have to offer, as well as finding out, which colleges are there. Particularly, the CTCLs, colleges that changes lives. There are 40 of them identified across the United States. And so, finding those unique colleges where students can, be in a college town and experience the vibrancy of that city, the culture of that city, the sports. It really brings small town cities alive when there are colleges in their towns. But I will tell you, I used to travel. So I used to be a road warrior as a project manager in my career early on. And I traveled throughout the United States and Canada, working with Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies doing implementations. So that is really where my love of travel increased. And I literally was probably living in the airports more than I was living in my apartment.
Right. Janice, as you know, as part of your work that you did for the students, helping them with the admissions, there is this other track of test prepping, right? There's this SAT, ACT, and stuff like that. Did you have a role to play in that when it came to training kids or coaching them, or did you stay clear from that?
Nope, I just got my SAT books this morning for my students.
Okay.
So I am the test coordinator for the PSAT and SAT. Parents, I want to put in a plug in here real quick. Make certain that your student takes the PSAT during their 11th grade year. So during junior year, this is the only time if students score high enough on that test that they will be listed as a merit semifinalist or a merit finalist, and they can receive scholarships from outside benefactors as well as from the colleges that they apply to. So it's very important, even if the student takes the PSAT slash National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, so the NMSQT, even if they take that during the 10th grade, they still have to take it during the 11th grade because that is when their scores will count towards qualifying as a National Merit Scholarship recipient. Now, in saying all of that, you heard me mention earlier that the SAT is culturally biased. For those of you who might not know, the origin of the SAT test came from the United States Army, the United States military. They had created a test to keep African Americans out of the military. Now, we all know it didn't work because we are smart enough. But there were quite a few that were kept out of the military because they could not pass that test. Well, there were private institutions that also did not want African Americans to attend their primarily or predominantly white institutions. And they adopted the SAT and made it a requirement to get accepted into their colleges. And again, we also know it did not work, right? Because if we want something bad enough, we're going to study for it and we're going to achieve it. But what I would like to say, parents and any students who are listening to this, is that if you are not a good test taker, if it gives you anxiety, it is best to just take the test. Don't study for it. Go in and take it cold turkey. Don't think about it, right? Just go in and think of it as another test that you're taking and just get it done, right? Now, if you happen to score high enough, perfect. But if you don't, then do not send your test scores to the colleges that you are applying to. Apply test optional. You have 3.5 years of schoolwork that you are giving to those colleges on your transcript that shows the type of student that you are. You also have the opportunity to talk about yourself in your personal statement. And remember, when you're writing your personal statement, you need to show and not tell, but you need to become vulnerable and you need to be descriptive and you need to let the admission counselors know that there's more to you than just grades and that you are not a test score.
Got it, Janice. You know, when talking about the SAT, you touched upon an important thing, saying that it was culturally biased. I had a guest on this show, I think 10 episodes back, who was specifically doing culturally relevant test prep coaching. So, if I remember, her name is Rebecca. Yeah, Rebecca Rogers, I think. So she
Good
was
for her.
doing culturally relevant test prep coaching, and that was new at that point in time. And after she explained, now I quickly understood, okay, what you meant. And that's a great tip or an insight that you just shared, because SAT, some colleges have made the test is an optional thing. It's not compulsory or it's not mandatory for students to show. But do you see that as an advantage? And also now SAT is going to go digital, I think starting December, if I'm not wrong. How do you see that, and how as a school are you gearing up for it, Janice?
Okay, so there's a couple of questions in there. So first, let me answer the SAT will become digital in the fall. The PSAT is digital. So we are giving the test on October the 11th, and our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders will be taking the digital version of the PSAT 8-9 and the PSAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Our students, our seniors, will be taking the paper version of the SAT. I do believe, because I believe that taking it digitally, our kids are very astute when it comes to technology. And I believe them having that ability to sit there and see it on the screen will give them, oh, okay, I see this. Bam. I think they'll see it clearly. I think we are going to be in for higher test score results. I think we're going to be dealing with less anxiety. I think it's going to be, kids really showing up to take the test and doing the best that they can do. But I definitely believe that going away from the paper is the right thing to do. Now, I believe that colleges that are going test optional, they are the type of schools where our kids need to be, where I feel like they are noticing that those tests were culturally biased and they kept a lot of kids out. I will tell you from my own experience, I said to you guys, my daughter had a 4.87 GPA on a 3.0 scale. She had a 1300 on the SAT, and she did not get into any Ivy League school that she applied to. And we knew it was because of her test scores, not because of her stellar transcript. My daughter also played the saxophone, but of course, she wasn't going to be a music major. But I believe that any good student that has a GPA of a 3.5 or higher, and maybe even a 3.3 and higher, they deserve a shot at getting into the school of their choice. And it should not be based on a test score. And I also feel like that there's two ways that colleges are using test scores now. One way is, hey, we're going to be test optional, but it's for admissions. Other colleges are also test optional when it comes to scholarship. And it's based on the student's school record, right? It's based on their transcript, it's based on their personal statement, it's based on their community service, it's based on, their extracurricular activities. Colleges taking a look at the student holistically, right? And making a determination that whether that student should be admitted at that college. And that, again, one test taken one day a year for 3 to 4 hours does not help you to identify that student as somebody who is going to be successful at said university. I think you have to look at the the student itself and get to know the student. And I do believe that interviews truly help. It helps you to get to know who that student is, but not the test scores. And the schools that are still taking test scores, for scholarship basis, I can understand it. I literally can understand it. Unfortunately, one of the things that we do, and I had mentioned this earlier, if the test scores are not indicative of what your grade point average is, and remember, a passing grade is still 70%. If your student is not passing these tests with 70% or higher, and if your student is an A student but got a C on the SAT or even the ACT, and I do have more preferential treatment for the ACT because I believe it looks at the student holistically as well across the board. It focuses on STEM, English, math, science, and history. So all the subjects that the students have been taken. So I'm going to put a shameless plug in for the ACT for anybody who's listening to this. But going back to my point, if your test scores are not indicative of the student's GPA, do not submit the test scores.
Got it, Janice. Janice, probably one concluding, question coming to your role here. There are two sides to your role. One is the student facing, and another you're literally connecting students to right places for them to go on to study further. And so you need to visit as many colleges, learn about them, and then probably make the right shortlisting and stuff like that. So how's your time split happens? How much time do you spend out of school, how much within the school with the students? How is it like for you?
So I have some pretty long days. I actually had two great volunteers came yesterday to help our students with their personal statements. We do a personal statement boot camp in the summertime. We also do the common application boot camp in the summertime. We try to get ahead of the game so that we can remove any anxiety that our students have. We identify students for top scholarships early on, and then we work with those students to fill out those scholarships applications. But I love, like you said, I love visiting colleges, and I have to take some time to visit colleges. During the fall, I may visit a few counselor fly-in programs, but then I also take our students on college visits. So that also puts me on those college campuses with the students so that we can then come back and have a great conversation about, okay, do you think this college is for you? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? With the Crystal Ray network, one of the things that we do is that we have over 78 university partners that we work with. So that's another thing. And those 78 university partners that we work with, they are committed to paying anywhere from 80 to 100% of their tuition for any student that they accept. So any Crystal Ray student that they are willing to accept, they are going to give them what we call, most places call it a Crystal Ray scholarship. And again, that scholarship is usually anywhere from 80 to 100% of full tuition. Most of our students are Pell Grant eligible. So they're going to get the Pell Grant. And then that cuts the food and the housing in half. And now parents can either opt to take the subsidized loan and then pay the rest. So that is where we get our $5,000 threshold from. I can tell you that the University of Notre Dame is one of our university partners. And across the network, we have 21 students who are attending there in the fall of this year, and their student bill was $700.
Wow.
That's correct. $700. So I'm going to put a plug in again. Parents, the best thing about a Crystal Ray school is that our students work. So our students go to school 4 days a week and they work 1 day a week. These kids are working in law offices, in hospitals. They are working for entrepreneurs. They are working at museums. They are doing work. They're learning. They're shadowing. And then they can, again, apply what they're learning at their workplace at school. So this way, the kids have worked 4 years over their high school careers, and they have learned valuable soft and hard skills. So if you are near a Crystal Ray school, or if you live in Orlando, which is where our newest school will be opening in 2025, I would go immediately and find out some information on it, particularly if you have 8th or 9th graders. We will take transfer students into the 10th grade, but that is it. You either have to enter in during 9th grade or 10th grade. And we are the school that works. And this is another way of having our students be able to be at the top of the list of candidates that will be selected at colleges, because we are the only school that is bringing that difference. We're bringing work experience, and the kids have a full resume along with their transcripts.
Got it, Janice. Thank you for that. Janice, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing about your journey and what it takes and what you happen to do as a college admission counselor. I've spoken to at least 10 to 15 of them, but again, yours is an altogether different story. And I wish you all the very best for your journey at Crystal Ray School. Also, the other initiative that you do at the College Navigator. So good luck to you. And I will reach out to you maybe 6 months down the line again to see how your journey has gone ahead. We can probably have a part.
Thank you so very much, Jag. It is definitely an experience, and I do continue to have my 5 clients on the side. You guys can reach out to me on social media, on Instagram at The College Navigator, but also find me on LinkedIn. My name is Janice Walker on LinkedIn. And then also, I have a website, which I always really forget the full name of the website. So, but I will make it available to Jag, and hopefully he will get it out to everybody. But you guys, I really and honestly want to let you know that I love doing this job and helping our future business leaders of tomorrow, right? A child shall lead the way, but we have to raise that child up in which way that he or she needs to go. So please reach out to me. You can also find me on Facebook as well, Janice Powell Walker. And I would love for your students to be my next client or to even see them at my high school, Crystal Ray Richmond. Thank you, Jag. I appreciate all the work that you do, and I can't wait to share this podcast with my friends and family members.
Sure, Janice, it's been a pleasure having you.